The Tao of Self-Confidence, episode 895. Welcome to the Tao of Self-Confidence, where I share stories of amazing women who have discovered their inner journey to self-confidence. Visit our website at thetaoofselfconfidence.com. Your inner journey to self-confidence awaits. You can now purchase The Tao of Self-Confidence, a guide to moving beyond trauma and awakening the leader within on Amazon, Barnes & Noble's, Walmart, Indigo, and other major book retailers. Get your copy today. Well, hello, friend. Welcome to The Tao of Self-Confidence, where I share stories of amazing women who have discovered their inner journey to self-confidence. I'm your host today, Sheena Yap Chan, and today I have another amazing lady on the show today. She is the Director of People Operations in Silicon Valley, and I'm super excited to have her on to share her story with us today on self-confidence. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to Keisha Stevens. Keisha, how are you today? Maybe you can fill in a little bit more about yourself to the listeners.
Wonderful, Sheena. Thank you for having me today. Sure, I have been on this journey of self-confidence for a while, although I would say it's been more recently in my career that I started to double down or focus on it more and what it meant to me.
Thanks for sharing that. And Keisha, what's your cultural background?
I'm half Filipino and half Mexican.
Thanks for sharing that. And Keisha, what'd be your favorite self-confidence quote?
So probably my current one, and I will say that it has changed over the years, but currently mine is self-confidence is a superpower. Once you start to believe in yourself, magic starts happening.
I love that quote, and it's so true. I mean, it really starts with believing in ourselves, because without that, we're not going to go out there and get uncomfortable and do the things that scare us, or we're going to end up resisting a lot or overthinking it. So having that belief is so important, and because it does become a superpower, because then we're going to go out there and take action. Regardless how many times we fall down, we'll keep getting back up until we hit it. So thanks for sharing that great quote. And in your own words, how do you define self-confidence?
For me, I think it's one, it's something you live by. So, every day I think I get up and I try to give myself a boost about whatever I'm doing that day, about however I'm feeling about the day. And I'm like, okay, you could do this, and it's kind of that self-talk and that belief that you have the power to do whatever it is that you're trying to do. But then secondarily, I think that it's overcoming perceptions of what others think about your confidence or that might bring your confidence down. So I look at it as kind of a dual-edged sword. One of it is, how do you perceive yourself and how are you showing up? And then also, how are you combating those like negative thoughts that may be stopping your self-confidence and stopping you from succeeding? Are you getting in your own way for certain things? So long answer, but I think that's how I probably best define it in my own world.
Thanks for sharing that. And, it's easy to get sucked into other people's opinion of us, right? Especially growing up Asian, that's all we're taught to do, just serve everybody else. You forget about, taking care of yourself. We end up getting worried if people like us, if they think, what we're doing makes sense or doesn't. And really, it's just up to us to go out there and do it regardless of what people might say. I mean, there's always going to be someone who's going to make a comment, but it doesn't matter, right? That's just someone's opinion and not someone's absolute truth about yourself. So I love that definition that you mentioned. And Keisha, what was your life like before you discovered self-confidence?
I feel like I went through life doing whatever I was supposed to do, right? So you talked about growing up in family. So, I was supposed to have a job. I was supposed to work. I was supposed to get married. I was supposed to do all these things. And I felt like at some point, there's things that probably didn't fit me, either maybe the job that I was doing or the life that I was living or the way that I was living. And finally, when I started to think about the things that like were right for me and what was going to make me happy or maybe just what I was good at versus the path that I was on, I started to get more confident as I made those changes. And I was like, oh yeah, this is what I should have been doing. This is where I should have been or where I'm headed. And so I think I got more confident later in life and later in my career as I started to make different changes in my life that like weren't expected of me. They were the things that I was doing for myself. And that really built up, I think, a lot of my confidence.
Thanks for sharing that. What was that aha moment that made you realize like you can go out there and do your own thing, you can build that confidence? If you can share that with us.
Yeah, I think there was one poignant moment for sure. Was it's been about 11 years, I want to say, that my mom passed. And, so I grew up all the time. We were very close, just having tons of discussions about everything, kind of idolizing and listening to all of the feedback. And suddenly I didn't have that. Suddenly it was kind of a lonely place. And it was like, oh gosh, like, who am I going to ask for advice? What am I going to do? And I realized that not only did I need to stand up on my own 2 feet, but I could. And I think that was like a huge turning point for me, was realizing that, like, she gave me the tools. She gave me the resources. Now I just had to use them, right? So I give her a lot of credit for, if you will, instilling that inside of me, but always being there with me. And I still feel like she's here with me. But I think that was probably the biggest turning point in realizing that, it was just me and I had to do that on my own.
Thanks for sharing that. And it's unfortunate that your mom passed away. And, sometimes when a loved one passes away, we start, thinking about life. What do we want to do with it? Do we want to, leave this earth with regrets? Do we want to do something different? And it just opens us to different perspectives on life. And we realize, like, life is so short. We don't know what's going to happen. It's really unpredictable. So we have to go out there and live life as much as we can, right? Live life to the fullest as much as possible. Everyone's situation is different, of course. And, because of that realization, what's your life been like now?
It's good. I mean, I think I do live my life with no regrets today. I think I try to hold myself with integrity, do the things that are going to, one, make me happy, that are perhaps right for, whatever I'm doing at work, that are right for my family, that are, just right for my life. And I try not to look back and go, God, I wish I would have made this decision instead. I just try to lean forward and go, no, you know what? For whatever reason, you made that decision at that time and it was right for that moment. So I think when you get in that mindset and you can forgive yourself if there's a blip along the way, right? And you go, oh, I wish I would have done that differently, but I'm okay with it because at that moment, that was the right decision for me and it was the right place. You do become more confident in your own decision making skills and your own thoughts about, how you're driving yourself, your life, your career, etc. So I think that helps as you're continuing through, is just giving yourself that grace and going, okay, maybe that was only 80% right, but at least I made a decision and I'm moving forward.
Thanks for sharing that. And, I'm glad you're able to do things, to live life without regrets, to do what makes you happy. As easy as that sounds, not a lot of people do that, right? They still feel like there's a limit to their life, but you're here living life to the fullest as much as possible. So I really love that. And, to the woman who's listening to your episode, she may be in her own journey to self confidence. What'd be that one tip you would give to her?
Like, follow your gut. If there's something that you think you want to do or you think you can do, but you, for whatever reason, are holding back, like, why? Just try it. It might not, you may get partway through it and you're like, oh, wow, this was absolutely not anything that I thought I wanted to do. And you may be super successful and found some other path to a job, a family, a career, something else that, like, is very meaningful to you. But had you not tried it, you would never know. So I always tell people, like, just go for it, try it, research, do whatever you need to do to get comfortable, but try it. If you really feel that passionately about something, like, don't hold yourself back, just try it. And it doesn't mean anything if you decide that it turns out it's not for you. You can at least look back and say, you know what, I gave it a shot and here's where I am. And you learn something from, I feel like, every time you go down any path. And whether or not it's a success or maybe it's a failure, you learn something. So you're always going to take something positive from that experience. It just depends on how much you're willing to put yourself out there.
Thanks for sharing that great tip. And I know it's not always easy to trust our gut, trust our instincts, because we love to second guess. But, it's a sign that it's taking us somewhere. And it may not always look like how we picture in our head, but as time passes by, you're going to look back and realize, oh, it had to happen that way for a reason. So I love that tip that you mentioned. And if our listeners wanted to get to know a little bit more about you and what you do, is there any links or social media profiles we can connect with?
Yep, I'm definitely on LinkedIn. So if anybody would like to connect or if they would like to talk, feel free to reach out to me on my LinkedIn profile. Also, I do mentoring for women coming back to work, either from perhaps stepping away to have children, or perhaps they've been laid off during COVID. So always happy to mentor our women trying to return to work.
Thanks for sharing that. And to our listeners, if you want to connect with Keisha, you can also head on over to thetaoofselfconfidence.com and search for Keisha's name. Her show notes will pop up along with everything else that we talked about. And I really just want to thank Keisha today for taking the time to share her story and tips with us on self-confidence. So thank you so much, Keisha.
Thank you, Sheena. Thanks for having me.
Not a problem. It was such an honor to have you on the show. And to our listeners, be on the lookout for another new episode of another amazing woman's journey to self-confidence. And we'll talk to you soon. Bye for now. Thank you for tuning in to another amazing episode of The Tao of Self-Confidence. You can order your copy of Asian Women Who Boss Up book by visiting our website at thetaoofselfconfidence.com. Your inner journey to self-confidence awaits.